So how does a cause that's absolutely just actually get a seat at the world's most powerful tables? Today, we're diving into that exact question, looking at it through the lens of the Ahwazi people, and exploring how a story of human rights can be transformed into a potent political reality.
All right, let's just get right into the thick of it. Why is it that some struggles, some really righteous causes, just fail to get any political traction, while others seem to capture the entire world's attention? I mean, is just being right enough to be heard? The sources we're digging into today suggest that in the tough world of geopolitics, the answer is a pretty firm no. And that really gets to the heart of the matter. In the global political arena, justice, on its own, might get you sympathy, but it doesn't automatically create political weight or give you a strategic presence where decisions are actually made. And this is the core dilemma facing so many movements, including the Ahwazi cause.
For years and years, the Alahwaz story has been told through a human rights framework. Oppression, discrimination, cultural suppression, and these facts are undeniable and incredibly important. But there's a hidden cost to this approach. It risks boxing the struggle into the category of a minority rights issue within a country, instead of what many argue it is, a full-blown political conflict over land, over sovereignty and representation.
This slide right here, it just lays out the strategic difference perfectly. Look on the left. The human rights narrative. It's focused on suffering and injustice. The language is one of victimhood, and the goal, it's to get sympathy. Now look to the right. The political narrative flips the script entirely. The focus is now on sovereignty and representation. The language is that of a political actor, and the goal is to get tangible recognition and real leverage. It's a massive shift.
And this quote from the source material just nails it. The first begs for sympathy, the second demands presence. That's it. That's the whole game. It's the difference between asking for help and demanding a seat at the table. This is the strategic pivot that's argued to be essential to move from the margins right into the center of political power.
Okay, so to really understand the foundation for this kind of political claim, we have to look at the history. The whole argument is that the Ahwazi cause isn't new. It's rooted in a long history of self-governance that existed way before the modern Iranian state ever did.
Now, this map is absolutely crucial. It shows that Iran isn't some single, homogeneous nation. It's a mosaic of different peoples. And you can see the Ahwazi Arabs are concentrated right here, in the southwest. The historical argument is that Old Persia was more like an empire of connected territories, and this idea of a centralized, Persian-focused nation-state is actually a much more recent invention.
And this timeline really traces that shift from autonomy to being part of a larger state. For centuries, Arab dynasties ruled Ahwaz. Then from the late 1800s to 1925, Sheikh Khazal governed the region as a semi-independent ruler. But 1925, that was the turning point. That's when Reza Khan's military annexed the territory, creating what Ahwazis consider their core historical grievance. And if we jump forward to the 1979 revolution, you see a massive uprising for autonomy get brutally suppressed, which just shows you how persistent this struggle has been.
So you've got this historical context, right? How does a people take that history and make a political claim in the modern world? Well, they use the language of international law. Specifically, they talk about the right to self-determination.
And this isn't just some vague, nice-sounding idea. It's a core principle written into the UN Charter and major human rights agreements. It says that all peoples have the right to freely choose their political status and pursue their own economic, social, and cultural path. It's basically the legal bedrock for any claim to sovereignty.
But, and this is a really critical distinction, self-determination comes in two flavors. You've got internal self-determination, which is about getting autonomy within an existing state. Think federalism or more local power. Then there's external self-determination. This is the big one. It's the right to form a completely independent country. And as you can imagine, that's way more challenging and controversial, usually applied to cases of decolonization, or, as some argue, when there's incredibly severe and systemic oppression.
Okay, so let's tie all of this together. How does a movement actually make that strategic pivot from a human rights issue to a political one, using their history and the law? The sources we've looked at lay out a pretty clear step-by-step process for this.
The whole strategy really boils down to 4 key steps. First, you have to reframe the narrative. Human rights abuses aren't the whole story. They're evidence of a deeper political conflict. Second, adopt an actor's voice. Stop sounding like a victim asking for aid, and start sounding like a potential partner looking for alliances. Third, build a rock-solid program that clearly defines who you are, your land, your history, and what you want.
And finally, step 4, connect your cause to international interests, things the big players care about, like energy security and regional stability.
Of course, having a playbook is one thing. Actually running the plays on the field is a whole different ballgame. The path to political recognition is, to put it mildly, full of some pretty massive challenges.
And yeah, the obstacles are just immense. You've got internal divisions and state suppression tactics like propaganda and repression. Then there's economic hardship, which makes political activism a luxury most people can't afford. And on top of all that, you've got the cold, hard reality of geopolitics. Neighboring countries are nervous, and global powers, well, they often prioritize stability and trade with existing countries over the claims of peoples without a state. It's a tough, tough road.
All of this leaves us with one last powerful question. In a world that's driven by power and self-interest, what does it actually take for a people's story, a people's truth, to become a political reality? It's a question that goes way beyond any single cause, and honestly, it's one that continues to shape the world we live in today.